Welcome to One More Game presented by Hoosier Pickleball. I'm your host, Matt Breinenberger, alongside my timely challenged but beautiful wife, Abigail. Abby, how are you? Other than late?
I am fine.
You are fine.
Yes.
I still love you.
How is
20 years into this, I should know better, but we're good. We're rolling, and we're excited to bring this episode to you because we got some pretty good topics. I mean, you know, every week I'm kind of like, how long are we going to be able to do this? Are we going to be able to come up with stuff? And then the Lord provides.
He does.
And this week we're talking a couple topics.
Yeah.
We're talking about spin.
Yes.
Okay. Spinach.
Spinach.
If
I
you
know.
will.
I thought Adam was going to be here, and I was going to give him crap about that.
In
Spinach.
honor.
The one kind of spinach Adam knows.
And maybe me too. I'm not a huge spinach fan. I definitely do not like spinach in my smoothies like this one does. So, so we're going to talk some spin, and also there's been some talk recently about rally scoring versus traditional scoring, and so we're going to get into a little bit of a discussion about that as well. So exciting episode, but first, you know, this is the Pickleball Podcast for those people who love pickleball, but life be crazy. So recently, we had a pretty crazy little story. Do you want to tell about how we accidentally left our 9-year-old child?
9.
She's 9. At the school for an entire hour.
Yeah.
Before we even realized what was going on.
Well, honestly, that was on you.
Whoa. That's hilarious because I was going to point out some of the things that you could have done better in this situation.
Okay,
Okay, let's start with me. How is this my fault?
You did not realize she was not home for an entire hour.
Good 45 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
So, because I was out with the other children at Sport 1 at club volleyball.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those crazy days where all 5 of our children have somewhere to be at the same time.
Yep.
And so I had actually gotten her a ride with somebody else.
Yep.
There was a miscommunication. I was trying to be brief and short, and it ended up not being, it didn't work out.
No, it didn't.
So
if we were to assign blame on a percentage scale, how much are you putting on me?
80.
No, that is ludicrous.
How much are you putting on me?
Let me give you the exact breakdown of the numbers.
See, Matt's always right, just so you know. FYI. Welcome to my life.
I will take 10% of the blame.
That is bullcrap.
Okay, I'll take 20. We'll go even amount, 20% for me. I should have recognized that I didn't have a child.
Our child was not home.
We have children coming in and out of the house.
True. They're everywhere.
Yeah, for all I knew, she came home and was at the neighbors jumping on the trampoline.
That's true.
It was a nice day. So
it wasn't.
20% to me, 20% to you. Here's your 20%. Being an under communicator. You get on me for being an over communicator. There was a text thread, and bless her heart, one of our friends who we love very much. Shout out to Steph if you're listening, Steph. Thank you for.
Listen.
She doesn't listen.
No.
Okay, well, good. Let's trash her. Let's give her 40% then. But she was told to pick up Emmy, and then Emmy told her, "No, I think my dad is getting me."
Okay. So it's Emmy's fault.
She gets another 20% for sure. Maybe she gets more. Let's blame the kid because
it's Emmy's fault.
How hard is it? There's tons of people around there.
Yeah.
She just sat there, kept telling people, "No, my dad's coming." Then I'll give the other 20% to all the adults who were at the school that could have easily picked up the phone and given us a call.
Right.
And anyways, so that was our fun story.
That's how crazy life is, though, is we leave children places. So if you see a random child, just assume it's a Brainerburger and give me a call.
Yeah, please do. Please do. But just to kind of wrap that up, I would say no better place to leave our child than very, very safe.
And a good lesson for her to stick up for herself.
Be assertive.
Be assertive. Ask an adult.
Right.
Will you call my mom?
Right.
She knows my number.
We talked to several.
So this is good.
Of the kids about that important.
It's good stuff. So. Good stuff for them.
All right, so let's get into some pickleball talk. First of all, on spin. So you've been doing a lot of clinics and lessons with beginners lately, and this is one of the questions that comes up a lot. With how do I deal with spin? And specifically, I'm kind of picturing a certain player who may not be that great, but is new to pickleball, comes from kind of a table tennis background or has some experience, and knows how to really put some spin on the ball. And so that's like their weapon. And so at the lower levels, you do see some people who can do some crazy spins.
Yeah.
And so your other beginners, bless their hearts, who are out there playing with them, trying to compete, are like, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
So
I feel like I need to say, first of all, it's I gave 2 clinics through the entire month of March in Decatur.
Okay.
And
Decatur is a little town about a half hour
yeah.
south.
And it was, I mean, it was so fun.
That's
they were just so enthusiastic to learn and a joy. And it's like when you see light bulb moments, as I'm not a teacher, but as I'm teaching in that moment,
Well, you
it's
are
like,
a teacher. You're
I'm
teaching pickleball.
I'm not a professional teacher.
Right.
It was so fun. I mean, I just loved getting to know them, and they were intense and enthusiastic and wanting to learn. And so, I have 3 big questions.
What was the demographic? Were these all women?
It was all women, because,
which is surprising because you are very popular amongst the older men.
Yes, I am.
I'm going to just be killing it when I'm
You
older
are.
because
You are. I will love you so much.
You just love older men, and
do.
older men love you. So, but this is great.
It's a cross I bear.
These were women.
These were women, and in fact, this clinic was so popular, they've asked me to come back in the evening so all their husbands can come, because I think
they don't know what they're getting into. Their husbands are all going to be loving you.
It'll all be great.
Okay.
It was so fun. So
that's awesome.
The 3 questions, I get asked 3 questions, and I'll go into the other 2 later. But the one question
on another podcast.
Yeah. But the big one today is, how do I handle spin? And I think specifically they mean the slice.
Sure. Yeah. Because that's the majority of the spin.
Yeah.
You see people, the slice, or called the cut. And picture the motion is somebody is kind of swinging from outside and coming across their body. So they're
down,
cutting across, coming down across the ball.
So it's like up to down.
Yep.
Across.
They're slicing it. They're cutting across it. And what that does for a right-handed player, then it's going to cause that ball to curve hard to the right. A left-handed player would be the opposite, and it would curve hard to the left. For your golfers out there, it's called a slice in golf. Most golfers fight the slice because they cut across the ball.
Interesting.
And they slice it hard to the right.
I don't know that.
There you go.
Yeah. So if you already know how to handle this, my encouragement to you is don't tune out now, because you will come across people who want to know how to handle it. And so we're going to just help you teach.
Yeah. And we are always open to ideas from you, other things that people have in terms of tips or tricks that can help even us deal with spin as well. So you want to start with one, or you want me to go into?
Yeah. So we talked about how you need to recognize it in your opponent. I think that's step 1.
Yeah.
Honestly.
The recognition.
Knowing what's about to happen. And then, excuse me, I would say my number 1 tip is time. And actually, that's my number 1 tip for all beginner and intermediate pickleball players. Is a lot of people are running up on the ball. And I even find myself now doing it. If I'm getting impatient, I'm running up on the ball. That is not a good shot.
Right. Like we've talked about before. When the opponent is hitting, you should be set, split step, ready to go.
So you recognize a slice coming.
What are you looking for when you say recognize? You're looking.
Height. I'm seeing the high to low across the body, either backhand or forehand. You get to recognize that.
So instead of the paddle tip being down in kind of that traditional kind of low to high pendulum cornhole toss, up pendulum up type shot, which would be your typical dink or third shot drop. Their paddle is high and it's kind of coming down,
and oftentimes,
or across.
Yeah, and oftentimes it's a return of serve. Okay, so how are you going to do a third shot off of a heavy slice?
Right.
So I typically say give it time. So don't run up on it. It will come to you. It'll just be lower. It'll be lower than what you're used to. So you can either third shot drop it, which is typically what I prefer. But you drive a lot of those.
So there's kind of some different schools of thought in that. And so I like where you're going first with recognizing it, seeing, always be watching your opponent's paddle and see what it's doing. I'm still trying to.
That will take you to the next level.
Yeah, I'm still trying to do that, because then you get people with misdirection and you think it's going one way. But try to recognize if you see a slice is coming and know that ball's going to be, it's not going to come up as much because it has kind of a side spin or even a back spin to it. And so it's going to be a little lower,
but
like you said.
But you still have time. So I guess I think people get impatient.
So one of the things that I heard when I first started was when someone would hit a real heavy slice or something is people would say, let it spin out. And at first I was like, I'm a math nerd or physics nerd. And I'm like, the ball doesn't like stop spinning as it's going. But to me, what I took away from that is exactly what you're saying is give it time. Don't try to take it like on the short hop. Which I think is really interesting. Like, remember when I was doing my spin serve, there were people, and I was talking about this with Ryan recently, Ryan Kearns, who's been on the show a couple times, and we talk a lot of pickle. He was kind of disagreeing with that mentality, but I could name at least 3 or 4 people that when I would spin serve, they would try on my serve to come in like short hop it.
You can't.
Right away.
Right. I knew that.
They were more successful with it than I thought they would be. I mean, these are accomplished players, and so maybe they were better at it. But when that happens, then you don't have time. What they're trying to do is minimize trying to decide which way they're going to have to go.
Right, because that's going to jump.
Yeah.
So you want to not have to.
Right.
So
I understand their thinking of that, but I agree with you. Give yourself time. Stay further back so that you can adjust to it.
Right. It will come to you. And that's the thing I think in pickleball is we all get impatient and we're all trying to get to this ball. But especially a slice, it's coming.
It's coming.
So just wait.
Yeah.
Just wait like a 1 millisecond.
Yeah. And it's maybe the one time that I would say you don't necessarily need to hit it when it's at the apex of the bounce.
Right.
That's typically where you want to hit it. But giving yourself a little bit more time if it comes down a little bit more. Is wise. So I like that.
Yeah, and typically when you and I play and we recognize this, when I recognize a slice come in Matt's direction, because a lot of times he's getting the return, right? Because they're trying to keep him back as the male player.
Right.
We will both say lift. Because you have to also give it a little. In fact, I had a couple really heavy slices that I just lobbed. Yeah. And those were actually really successful.
So getting into a little bit of the physics and the spin and stuff, do you know why you have to lift? Because think about that ball.
Well, if the ball's coming this direction.
Right. So if it's
not going to bounce off my paddle higher, right?
It actually is.
Oh.
Yeah. So the backspin of it coming towards you, if backspin's coming towards you, then when you hit the ball, there's actually top spin on that ball, which, but think about that. That top spin then causes the ball to dive more towards the net.
Yeah.
So you have to lift it to get it up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because a lot of sliced returns, a lot of people who slice it at their opponent, that goes in the net.
Yeah.
So you have to lift.
In fact, at the pro level, it used to be that like a real hard slice return was optimal. Like if you can hit a deep slice, and most pros still do that, but there's kind of a trend changing where you're seeing more pros returning with topspin.
Interesting.
So that third shot then cannot be driven because that drive then is going to have backspin. So it's kind of counterintuitive. So it's, again, part of the chess.
I don't know that I understand any of that, but it's kind of like...
Do you want me to try to explain it again better?
No.
Okay.
You did a great job.
If you're listening on the pod, you can hit the back 15-second button a couple times and hear me explain it again. But yeah, that whole idea, and that was a foreign concept to me when I first started thinking through, when topspin's coming towards you, if you just hit the ball normally, it's coming back at them with backspin because it's the opposite. So.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes you can punish your opponent with their own spin.
Yeah. Another thing to think about too in terms of giving yourself more time is not taking a huge backswing. That's why in pickleball you want to have a shorter backswing so you don't get all tied up, because if you're coming back to take a big giant crack at the ball and then it spins a different way than you think, that kind of messes you up. So it's having a shorter, more compact swing is
I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday and they're talking about how this guy, he's a physics professor or something, and then he got into pickleball, and he was talking about he thinks in tennis they're going to start having that shorter swing. He thinks shorter swing in every part of pickleball is the way to go.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was even talking about like baseline ground strokes. I was like, geez. I mean, hey, this is one guy's opinion, but it was interesting to think about. So
I mean, we are no tennis experts by any means, but I just have a hard time. Tennis is such a power game, especially at the men's level, single level, and you generate the most power by a big backswing and a huge.
the podcast was titled "The Physics of Pickleball," so I found it very interesting, but I can't remember what podcast it was.
Oh, okay. Got it. Oh, not the entire show was called The Physics of Pickleball.
No, just that but I can't remember. Yeah. Anyways, it was good though. Yeah, interesting.
Cool. Anything else on spin or things to think about?
I just think the main thing is giving yourself time.
Mm-hmm.
Like not running up on it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, time is key for sure, and the recognition, and it takes some time. I mean, I think when we start, even with, I think of teaching kids in pickleball, and it's such a funny thing. We'll do a drill where, it's so intuitive for anybody who's played sports that where a ball's going to bounce and where the apex is going to be. But kids don't know. When they see that ball coming towards the net, they see ball and they just run towards it. And it's kind of funny. So you have to kind of teach the kids to let the ball bounce, and then you want to kind of find where that apex is on the bounce, and then you want to hit it. So similarly, when you're dealing with spin, it does take time to kind of learn, but now it's pretty natural. And I would say I've seen you improve in this area. I feel like there were times when you first started playing where I would see, like, kind of those crazy rallies where it's like spin after spin after spin. Geez. And then somebody hits like a real weird one and you run up to the net, and I'm like, and I know that it's going to spin real hard, and you're kind of not anticipating that. I think you do a better job of kind of being able to get to those and anticipate some of those.
I had a really
spins.
Crap one today where there was so much junk on it. I ran up to it to get it, and then it still bounced out of my reach.
And I was like, that still happens to everybody. Yeah. But recognizing when there's been a lot of that you're going to have to get up to it and be ready to adjust, because it might really take off on you. Definitely is a different game now that the spin serve is not intact, but we're still seeing. We didn't talk about our tournament we played in.
We didn't.
We're going to kind of talk about that. You want to do that real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So we played in a tournament together.
We did.
And we survived it. We actually had a great day. It was
did.
fun. So I played in men's.
You didn't yell at me once.
No, I don't yell. Don't make it sound like I'm some crazy person.
You didn't reprimand me once.
Right. I never yell.
Sorry, he doesn't yell.
I did not get annoyed with you.
Yes, okay. That's
once,
good to say.
Or at least externally, I didn't. I don't think I did at all, actually.
Because I played great.
You did. And you were a gamer, too. I mean, the day before, we were kind of talking about maybe finding me a replacement partner.
I'd hurt my back.
Yeah. So, but you showed up, and you really did play well. I had played in men's the day before with Matt Carpenter. We still got to get Matt on the show. We got to just schedule that. He's got the best story. But anyways, Matt and I had a great time together, played well. We went 5-2 in our pool play, made it into the playoff, and proceeded to lose 2 games that I really felt were winnable. I was pretty frustrated at myself. I missed a lot of third shots.
You said that.
And so that's one of those things you just can't simulate. When you've played a bunch of games, you're kind of tired, your legs are kind of tired. And I mean, that's why.
Don't you think that's here?
Yeah.
That's a mental.
It is a mental thing for sure, but it's overcoming that physical part of it. And that's why I do think even like in rec play, after you've played for 2.5 hours and you're tired, that's a good time to try to figure out, how do I overcome some of that? So anyways, Matt and I ended up getting 4th. So just missed out on the medal stand, which kind of stunk. And then the next day we played mixed, and we were playing 4-5 plus. So these were combined 4-5 and 5-0 players. So really good competition. We went 5-0 in our pool play until the end.
Yep.
Right. And then our last 2 were against the 2 toughest teams.
And they were 5-0s, all of them.
They ended up getting gold and bronze. They really were the best 2 though, but because of the way the pool play worked out, they ended up with gold and bronze. And it was we always say, are we winning or are we learning?
Yes.
And we did both, right?
We did.
So we learned a lot of what we need to improve on, and love playing those. I mean, that's what it's all about, is playing, well against the team. We beat the teams we should have beat, and then the teams that we want to be as good as, if not better, we struggled with. And so we'll go back, we'll watch the film, and we'll figure it out for sure.
It was fun though.
Yeah, we had a good time. So that was down in Columbus, Indiana.
Yeah. And I feel like I have to say this. So last year there was a 5-0 division.
Yeah.
And this year there was not. It was 4-5 plus. Yeah. So last year we would not have faced the 5-0s. I mean, I love that I played against them.
Right. I'm glad
it taught me a lot.
Yeah. I like the way.
Yeah. I need to be a better dinker, a better, lower, more consistent dinker. That's what I came away with.
Yeah. That's such a key at that level. Consistency. I missed too many thirds, especially in that men's day. That was really my frustration at the end. I had been doing great on my thirds and then just missed some easy ones. And finding the time to speed up.
Yeah. Oh, the appropriate speed up.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk about scoring and some different scoring options that are out there now. So we will be right back.
Are you new to the game of pickleball and looking to learn the basics? Or maybe you're an experienced player who wants to take your game to the next level? Both Matt and I would love to help.
That's right, Abby. We are both Level 2 IPT-PA certified instructors and would love working with you, either giving you private lessons, group lessons, or hosting a clinic. We also offer unique video coaching utilizing the latest in drone technology. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok by searching Hoosier Pickleball, or email us at HoosierPickleball@gmail.com. Also, check out the show notes for all the links to our social channels.
Welcome back to one more game presented by Hoosier Pickleball. We've been talking about spin today, and we're going to get into a conversation about scoring. But you had just one or two more things you wanted to kind of put a bow on this.
Yeah, I did, because we talked a lot about the return of serve, or maybe more of the mid-court slice, but we didn't talk about at the kitchen line, the slice dink. And I struggle with that. So if you're playing against me, slice dink it, and I'll struggle with that.
Tell people that.
Yeah, especially when it's like, if it's just a regular slice, it's fine. But I have a couple people in my life who cut it so hard.
Yeah.
And I can typically do one of two things. Yeah. I cannot let it bounce, honestly, and get a good dink. So I try to, like, if I'm on the right, I slide left and I just try to take it out of the air.
Yeah.
That is a better option for me. Or if I let it bounce, pretty much the other only thing I can do is just reset it across from me. So I have to practice it. I cannot, it's one of my limitations.
So again, thinking about that spin, then that's why it's so important to get low too. So if you're not taking it out of the air, if you can move your feet to kind of get low and underneath it, remember that ball's going to kind of dive a little bit more, because as you're hitting it back, your reply is going to have topspin on it. So it is tough. That's a tough one. Good dinking, and that's next level stuff. Is slice dinking. We're teaching our beginners to not worry about putting slice on their dinks and things like that. Yeah.
Right. So that's the last thing I had about the slice.
About slice and about spin. Okay. All right. So let's talk about rally scoring.
Yeah.
So this was kind of a topic that came up in kind of a circle that we have, a thread that a lot of people here in our area are talking about. And this kind of like sparked a whole lot of debate, and it was kind of interesting. I didn't really throw myself into it, partly because I don't have a real strong opinion on this, but there was an article that came out, and we'll link it in the show notes, and we're not going to go into in depth with it, but really the gist of the article is it was taking a very analytical approach, looking at the numbers of comparing rally scoring to traditional scoring. So just real quickly, when we say rally scoring, that means a point is scored on every rally. So every point, somebody's getting a point, whether you're serving or not. Traditional scoring, as you probably know, is only the server can score the point. Otherwise, it's second server or a side out. So the data, though, was extremely interesting, because just after, kind of reading the initial part of it, I thought, well, it's pretty obvious that a traditional game 2-11 is going to have, it's going to go back and forth. You're not scoring points every rally. That's going to be a lot longer than rally scoring to 21 is typically what you'll play a rally game 2. But the data was like neck and neck. It's essentially the exact same. So you play roughly, I think it said about 40 rallies in a game, regardless of whether or not you're playing traditional or rally scoring. So to that point, then the argument that was made is rally scoring is more simple. It's not having to teach people like, I mean, scoring is by far the hardest thing to learn in pickleball. When we do camps and clinics, especially with beginners, they're like, teach us how to keep score, because it's like, what are these three numbers and first server and second server and yada yada.
I mean, to be fair, I looked up a YouTube video on how to rally score, and the YouTube video was 44 seconds long, and it taught me how to rally score.
Yeah.
Now, not MLP rally score. That's
Right.
different. This was just basic rally score.
Yeah.
But if you look up a video on how to keep score regularly in pickleball, it's like
25
25
minutes. No.
and I still don't get it.
Right. No,
So,
I mean,
it is easier.
I always joke that for the first, I don't know, 2 weeks that I was playing pickleball, I didn't understand.
I still don't understand.
When they said, when they would say first server, I was like, well, if you're the first server, you're the first server the whole game. But
Yeah.
that's not always the case. So,
Right.
yeah. Anyways, it was very interesting. Now, you wanted me to kind of explain the difference between MLP rally and regular
Well,
rally.
I figured it out, but what I
Okay.
wanted you to explain is just how to rally score for our listeners. Just
Okay.
make it this 44-second video here
Okay.
and
So,
explain how to rally score.
so rally scoring.
Not MLP.
Yeah, rally scoring is simply whoever is serving is going to be your score, whatever it is, even or odd. That's the person that's going to be scoring. So,
Based on the court.
Yep. So on the right side, if I'm on the right side and we have 0, 2, 4, 6, if it's an even number, then I'm going to be serving. Okay. Then if we win that point, this is not 44 seconds. This is, you put me on the spot, and you know me, I can't explain things
No,
quickly.
you cannot.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're doing great.
So then you win that point, then you're going to keep serving.
Yes. And you switch sides.
And you would switch sides then.
Yes.
So you keep going on your side, but there's no second server.
Right.
So let's say you win that point, you get to 6, then you're serving from the left side. Then you don't win that point. Well, the other team scores a point, and they do not switch. And that's the part that kind of confuses people sometimes. So in traditional rally scoring, they scored a point, but they're not switching. They only switch sides of the court when they are the server
when
who
they're
wins
the
the point.
server who scores. Yes, that
so,
is.
and that
yeah.
helps when you kind of play it out. That helps to kind of keep it so that you're switching sides back and forth, and you're not always on the same side. Now, what was inventive about MLP, they came along and they came up with kind of their own version of rally scoring, where you have kind of a designated side.
Yeah.
I'm a left-sided player. I stay on the left.
Because if you win the point, the other person serves.
Right.
So say I'm the right-sided player, I win that point, it's 1-0. I give the ball to you,
Yep.
you're serving 1-0.
Yeah.
We win that, I serve 2-0.
Yeah. And then they also did something unlike traditional
Right.
rally scoring. Traditional rally scoring, there's like regular traditional and traditional rallies. I know, super confusing. But in traditional rally scoring, it's just win by 2.
That's what we so
Normal.
we played a game today.
Yeah.
Of rally, so we'll talk about that. But yeah,
Okay.
just regular win by 2.
Yep.
But in MLP,
In MLP, once you get to 20, you
the
freeze.
first team to 20.
The first team to 20 freezes, and they have to win, get to that 21st point by serving.
by a traditional,
By a traditional,
It's not a rally point.
But it still doesn't go back to switching sides.
No.
When we say traditional, it's just they have to serve to win. The other team, let's say they were at 6, they keep going rally-wise.
until they're
Yep.
at 18.
Until they're at 18, and then they freeze on 18. So the scenario, again, I was talking with Ryan about this yesterday, is if nobody gets to 20 yet, so both teams get to 19, and then the one team scores to go to 20, then it would like automatically freeze the 19 team also.
Oh, that's right.
That gets a little
Oh, that's
confusing.
interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So anyways,
So
you played.
we did.
And you did traditional,
we did traditional
rally scoring.
Rally. It was really fun. We played to 21,
Yeah.
and I told them, I was like, you guys, we're just doing this. We're doing this for the podcast, but I want to be like, I want your feedback. Like, let's talk about this. So first of all, it was hard to remember because we'd forget, like,
Right.
oh, you scored.
Because you're used to the other way. And
Yeah,
that's
and that's okay. Yeah.
I guess that's my point is
Yeah.
we kind of disagree on this, where you're like, why would we change it? It's
right. If the statistics are so similar, why change it is my question.
And my answer to that is for your average player coming into the sport.
It is easier to teach.
It's easier to teach rally scoring.
It is. So. And because I even thought we weren't switching, but in traditional rally scoring, I would have no idea where I am on the court if we're stacking.
Right.
Because I know where I am in traditional scoring.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyways, here's the feedback. So I think the ultimate score was 22-20.
Wow.
It might have even been higher. It was a really nice, fun game.
Not that everybody will care about who were the teams.
Oh, okay. Oh, I think I played with Don.
Okay.
I was with Don, and across the net for me, I think was Jeff Coyle and Steph Troyer. Okay.
So a mixed game.
Yeah. Yep. Don and I won.
Okay.
I think 22-20.
You want to make sure you
got
that?
Did everybody hear that?
I'm sorry. Did you you won?
I won.
Oh, 22-20. Okay.
So, but the feedback was like Don said, I just couldn't get into the game. Like,
really? He was thinking
about the score. He's like, he said it felt choppy. Like we just couldn't get into it. Coyle said, I couldn't, you can't take risks because if you want to take a risk and you don't lose your serve. So he had to play, he felt like he had to play more conservative.
Ooh.
And here's one thing that,
interesting.
Here's one thing that, you know how it's somewhat painful when the ball just dribbles over the top of the net?
Right.
Every single time that's a point.
Right.
So there were multiple times that happened and it was more irritating than it normally is.
Well, and to me, I kind of like that. It makes every point more important because every point is and that's interesting to kind of get in the mentality of that also, that, you know, every point should matter because it's either you're scoring or you're preventing the other team.
What I like is if we played to 21, I felt like the game was still a nice, decently long game. I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
I'm not anti. I do think it does make you a touch more conservative, but I think you just roll with it. And if we were a rally scoring sport, think about if they wanted to change it to traditional, people would be freaking out.
Right.
So I think it's
like,
just...
Why are you confusing us? Yeah.
Right.
I
loved not calling out the server. I'm not going to lie, because I never know what server I am.
My 1 or 2, right.
So like the scoring was easier to say.
Yeah. I think the more I think about it, I think the more pro rally I am. Because the other point I would make, especially in rec play, and again, I need to read that article a little bit more in depth, but I feel like statistically, like they say that the games that are both on average of 40
rallies,
I would guess the outliers like are less for rally scoring, if that makes sense. Because we've all been like, I've been in like a permanent court time situation where we have 2 hours to play in the first game. It lasts like literally a half hour.
I know, and
it goes so frustrating. Like 18-16.
Right.
And I don't think that was an outlier for sure, but that's not that uncommon, especially early on. You're not real warmed up. You're missing some thirds, you're missing some shots, and so there's just not many points being scored. Whereas in rally, it's kind of like it's more uniform, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And sorry, I'm going to take this back. It was not Steph Troyer. It was Kathy, because at one point they had like 13 points, and Kathy's like, we have not switched sides yet. They had not scored on a serve yet. Do you hear what I'm saying? They had 13 points that they had not scored on a serve.
Wow.
That was fascinating.
And then the game ended up being
22-20.
That almost doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I was even laughing, like, you have 13 points, and technically...
What were you guys at that point? You had to be higher than them.
Well, I was on the left side when Kathy said that, so we had an odd number. I don't know.
So, I mean, unless you were up, like...
We weren't up. It was neck and neck.
So that means, I think, if I'm understanding this right, then you guys had maybe only scored once or twice on your serves. I don't think it's possible to have them not score and you be close and not. So if my hypothesis is right, then that means if that game was a traditional game, it would have been like
2-1
nothing or,
right,
or 3-0. I mean,
that's fair to say.
Yeah,
but I know I was on the left side, so I know we had scored.
Right. So maybe it would have been 1-0.
Right.
And you would have been just getting into that game.
Yeah.
But because it was rally scoring, you were over halfway
now,
through.
I will say this was the first game we had all played.
Okay.
So it was probably full of more mistakes than we would make normally.
Again, exactly to my point, right?
Yeah.
That I think it's a good way to go.
Yeah, but it was still a nice long length. It's not like it was 30 seconds long or whatever. So,
and it kind of puts people out of their misery if they're really
But here's
struggling.
my question. So if I want to stack though, I mean, because like if I get stuck on the left side and we want to switch, like then, I mean, I don't even know how you do that.
You can still stack, but I think it's even more confusing.
It is more
for sure. Because even like in MLP, you're a left-sided player. You stay on the left. You can still stack and switch and all that.
True.
That's just like where you have to start.
Smarter than I am. Yeah.
Stacking in Rally.
Yeah. So my encouragement would be to play a traditional Rally. You don't have to play MLP style, but just go play and see what you think. Like you can do 1 or 2 games.
Right. And we'll find a very concise 44-second video that it explains it better than I did.
It might have been a minute. I don't know.
But yeah, I think it isn't hard to learn. Really, the gist is you only switch when you score a point serve. And then when the ball comes back to you, whatever your score is at that point, you're either even. If you're even, then the person on the right serves. If the person on the left serves, if you're out. So
it was not hard to figure out this morning. Is what I'll tell you.
Yeah, but I do remember any time that I've had to like look it up when we have done like we've had like big groups before where we've had like 4 courts going and we've said, okay, first 2 finish and then we'll do rally scoring to kind of mix it up or whatever before the next round. And I've had to look it up before, so I think I got it down now.
Yeah, but it is hard to start a game with traditional scoring and then you go to rally scoring.
Right.
So I didn't mind it is all I'm saying. Like it was fun. And then it was kind of a joke the rest of the time. Like couldn't do that if that was rally scoring.
Right.
Like, you just,
that conservative aspect
have to be
of it
more
isn't
conservative.
something that I would have thought of. So that's interesting to think. All right. Anything else on rally, traditional, just people's thoughts and opinions? I'd say it was fairly mixed. Most people kind of averse to change or kind of like, why would we change it if it's working? But I mean, again, I'm thinking more for the beginner and as pickleball grows and more people get into the sport, making it as easy as you can. Because I'm sure there are people out there who've been turned off by the sport simply because it's the scoring. Yeah. Like they try and they're like, this is too confusing.
Well, and there is a population of pickleball players who are, struggling with memory.
Sure.
And, I did see this thread and I loved every minute of it. This guy was saying, he played with this man who is like on the kitchen pickleball, whatever groups we're in, pickleball forum, I don't know. But he said, he played with this man who just said, listen, I'm in the beginning stages of dementia. I cannot keep score. Will you keep score for me?
Yeah.
And he did. And you can actually do that. That's in the rule book. You can have your partner keep score for you and call the score for you.
Oh, interesting.
In case you have
maybe we should claim that for you.
Absolutely. Anybody can call the score for me. And I just love that man did that for, because he said his partner who was in the beginning stages was a really good pickleball player.
Right.
But couldn't keep
probably
numbers.
freed him up to not be, that would be
it wouldn't stress him out.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you can play in an easier way that doesn't feel so.
There you go.
To those
more reasons.
Yeah.
Team rally. I need
a
like
shirt.
A shirt.
Team rally.
Maybe that'll be our next shirt idea for Hoosier
That's a
Pickleball.
good idea.
Team rally.
I like it.
Yeah, you buy your shirt. What are you? Team rally or are you team traditional?
We have to name it. I don't know.
Team confusion. Team confusing scoring.
Team what day is it?
Yeah.
What's the score?
Yeah. Who are you?
Yeah.
All right. As always, we like to end with something we love. What do you got?
It's so fun. I haven't even. I have not.
I'll give you a minute to think, and I will go with this time of year, March. We talked a lot in February, just like kind of the doldrums or whatever. But I just love this. Like, even though it hasn't been real warm here,
it's coming.
It's coming, and spring break is around the corner, and sunshine, and this time of year basketball is just great.
Yeah.
Even though my Hoosiers kind of laid an egg in their second round game,
and so did Purdue laid an egg in their first round game.
Well, let's talk about that. That's what I'm gonna say. I love. No, I'm sorry, all my Boiler fans out there. I love you, but that was.
Oh man, I felt so bad for them.
That was laughable. I mean, it was.
I'm not even a Purdue fan, and I felt awful.
Right. Right.
Because I'm in Indiana, the state of Indiana.
Right. And we do have kind of a family friend, a kid who went to.
Yeah.
And so
on the team.
Yeah, Caleb First. We do love him and didn't want to see him suffer, but just from a trash talking standpoint, like it's the ultimate, like, hey, you lost to a 16 seed.
It's only the
happened
second
twice in the history of basketball. So
yeah, that's funny.
Did you come up with anything?
Yeah,
what
I did.
I'm
just, I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. I actually noticed this morning when I let the dogs out, the birds were chirping, and I was like, like it just felt. I could feel it. I could feel the warm undercurrent. It's not warm, but you could feel like spring is coming. The birds are chirping. The grass is a touch greener, and I was like, we made it.
Yeah, that's always my favorite. After being gone for a week for spring break, and you come back and you're like, whoa,
there's buds on the trees.
Yeah, and the grass is a lot greener than I remember.
So outdoor play is upon us.
It sure is. Trying to schedule some stuff next week. I need to ask you about one actually. See if I can have permission. We'll do that off air, or I should do it now so that.
No.
No.
I'll still say no.
You'll still say no. All right. Well, thank you as always for joining us on One More Game. I'm Matt Brandenberger, my wife Abby, and keep listening. We'll keep putting these out there and look for some good interviews coming up in the not too distant future as well. So
awesome.
Have a good one. We'll see you next time.
As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Hoosier Pickleball, Indiana Physical Therapy, and Pickleball Rocks. In addition, a big thank you to our production company, Coraggio Media, and the 95.7 WELT studio in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or find us on YouTube at One More Game Pod. That's the number 1 More Game Pod. Hit that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating to help us spread the word. You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok at Hoosier Pickleball for all kinds of fun, tips, tricks, and other family nonsense, and also some great discussion. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.